Here mate, have you played that new Sonic game? No I haven't. In fact, I'm still playing a Sonic fan game that was made by a 12-year-old child in 2001 and feels like it might crash if I so much as look at it funny. So Sonic fan gaming has history now. You can stem the entire thing back to stuff like Sonic Boom, which released in 1995 and was developed in click and play, but it really took off in a big way when developers started using the Games Factory, which released in 1996 as a successor to click and play. I have a lot of nostalgia for early TGF Sonic fan games released in the early 2000s, and I wanted to highlight 5 in this video that I remember fondly. Some of these games have interesting mechanics and gimmicks, and some of them just have an overall high level of quality that made them stand out from the crowd. Let's get cracking. Sonic Gamma is a game where its central gimmick is that each of its 4 playable characters has their own unique stages based on their movesets. One of the new characters is an OC called Rosemary Rosie Rose, which is such a wonderfully daft OC name that I can't help but love it as a result. Rosie's stage is based on her using a gun to defeat enemies and plays out like a Mega Man stage, complete with the double doors before its boss fight. Tails' stage features more verticality in order to make the most of his flying ability. Sonic's stage is based on forward momentum to make the most of his speed, and features a lot of grind rails and pipes as a result. And finally we have Knuckles, who also has a stage with more verticality in it to make use of his climbing and gliding abilities. Being an old fan game, it doesn't have the best use of momentum in its action, and the stages are a lot flatter as a result of not being able to pull off convincing sloped terrain. But I still have a lot of nostalgia for this game because it showcases a lot of gameplay variety thanks to all of its characters having their own unique stages. Plus it's got this really charming amateurish pixel art in the cutscenes, which are also full of typos. It's a game that brings me back to a certain time and place, and I can't help but be nostalgic for that sort of stuff, warts and all. Sonic Key has a really unique gimmick in that you don't have access to all of your abilities until you charge a key gauge by using the spin dash. At full charge, Sonic can now double jump and produce an area of effect shockwave which destroys enemies nearby. As Shadow you can use a bounce attack to break certain surfaces. Each character has a selection of supporting abilities like the lightspeed dash, rolling and grinding that makes the overall experience feel very Sonic Adventure 2, but in 2 dimensions. This is something a lot of early 2000s fan games like to do, and it has a certain charm that highlights what Sonic fandom was like during this era. While I do like the game's key mechanic, I do think it's a shame you don't earn key by defeating enemies so you can more easily maintain a full gauge. Having to stop and spin dash every time you want to have access to your extended abilities is a bit of a shame, but the concept is still very cool and I would have loved to have seen it expanded into a full game. Sonic XG is a game that is amazingly still in active development, but it was started back in 2002. This demo from 2003 is a little archaic compared to some of the more recent ones that are available, but I wanted to highlight it because even as far back as 2003, its core mechanics are already in place. Sonic XG introduces wall jumping and a sort of speed break gimmick where Sonic gains temporary invincibility if you run at top speed for long enough. Think of it like Sonic Advance 2's boosting, but with added invincibility. This means you can just tear through badniks and it's loads of fun, but also quite challenging to maintain. The game would introduce more accurate Sonic physics and momentum throughout its development, and as of 2021 it has now moved over to Click Team Fusion. I'm still really hopeful we'll get to see this one finished at some point because its mechanics are just so much fun to use, and the stage designs encourage skilled use of them. K-Omega was another Sonic Adventure 2 style fan game from 2002 that lets you control either Sonic or Shadow. They both have different abilities, with Sonic having a sort of shoulder barge you can activate like a spin dash, while Shadow has a flash attack that destroys any enemies in its area of effect, but it's got quite a slow build up before activation. What I like the most about K Omega is its massive sprites that are clearly just classic Sonic 2 sprites edited to look like modern Sonic with additional animations. We've also got a wall jump mechanic in here that feels a little more robust compared to Sonic XG's, and as a result the stage designs feature a lot of areas that encourage use of it. There are a couple of stages in this demo, but the second forest stage features a full screen flashing effect to simulate lightning that may trigger photosensitive epilepsy if you suffer from it. Finally, I want to highlight Retr Sonic, which is a fan game that has had such a wide-reaching effect on official Sonic releases. Developed by the Taxman, this game was always notable at the time because it felt so much more like 16-bit Sonic than the rest. The simulation of 16-bit style momentum and physics just made the whole experience feel so much more like a classic Sonic game, but now we have a larger colour depth and CD quality music. Again, this one never made it to full release, but its engine was used to port Sonic CD, Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 to every device imaginable, and the engine was also used to develop Sonic Mania, meaning Retr Sonic's DNA is all over these games. An important title that really pushed other Sonic fan games in its wake to develop more accurate simulations of classic Sonic physics. So that's 5 older Sonic fan games from the early 2000s that I have a lot of nostalgia for. I wanted to highlight a great website called Scaly Foxy, which is doing incredible archival work when it comes to older fan games, and I'm so glad that someone out there is doing this sort of preservation work for Sonic fan gaming. Old fan games may be a little clunky and difficult to love nowadays, but without them, the whole medium of Sonic fan gaming wouldn't have progressed to where it is today. And sometimes these older games still put forward interesting new spins on Sonic gameplay that deserve to be highlighted. So if any of these sounded interesting to you, then by all means please give them a go yourself.